Hi, welcome everyone to Car Culture. Thank you for being here. And I want to welcome everyone and say congratulations to all the artists who were accepted into this show. And also thank the artists who are speaking and congratulate them on that. You will hear from them soon. You are all, just a few housekeeping things. You are all muted, and if you want to speak, you can unmute yourselves when it's time for you to speak. But I ask you to please stay muted during the program so we don't have any extraneous background noise. Thank you. The chat box is available for you to write any comments or questions. We will be monitoring that. And I think that's about it for the housekeeping parts. So I want to introduce our executive director of OCCCA, Jeff Frisch, who will tell you a little bit of OCCCA's story. Jack, I really need to be seeing myself.
Well, good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody here. I'm assuming you can see me. History of OCCCA. OCCCA started actually 40 years ago, just a little over 40 years ago. The entire time we've been in Santa Ana. The first 20 years we were on the west side of Santa Ana in a rented space. In the last 20 years, we've been in a building that we own in the downtown Santa Ana Artist Village. OCCCA started with the idea that there was five MFA graduates from Cal State Fullerton who found that there wasn't anywhere to exhibit contemporary art in Orange County in 1980. So they went back and asked their professor, who was a rather famous artist now, his name is George Herms, what are we going to do? There's no place to show art and contemporary art in Orange County. And he very cleverly said, well, start your own gallery, which they did. And that turned out to be OCCCA. And as you can see on the screen right there, there's our building where we've been since actually 2000. And the image that you see is from when we were regularly able to have our opening receptions on the first Saturday. There's that art walk in downtown Santa Ana. And that's a good example of what it looks like. So that's a brief history of OCCCA. There's probably some more details to it, but we'll leave it at that. And with that, I'll turn it over to our...
Just a minute, Jeffrey. We're having... There we go.
Oh, okay. Interior view. Yay. Thank you. Yeah, I think there's even one more. That's our grand gallery. And that's looking towards the front of the gallery. And then this is the same space with some people in it that are attending a show. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Beverly, is that the one that's from your exhibit?
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hooray for that. That's good to know. Okay, so there's a couple of views of OCCCA. And if anybody has any questions, I'm easily available by email, or you can contact me through the website. And at this point,
can I interrupt for a second to give an addendum? One of the privileges, I'm membership chair of OCCCA. You know, we're all volunteer and we each have our jobs, and we're actively looking for new members. And so those of you in the audience and the artists who live nearby, you have to live nearby. I encourage you to look into becoming a member. Members are juried in, and you can read about that on the website if you just go to occa.org and look for membership. And so one of the perks of membership is that you get your own show. It's around once every 2 to 3 years, and we have this beautiful space. And you can do basically whatever you want. Usually the artist member invites a guest member, and it's just a wonderful experience. And then of course you have responsibilities too of helping run the gallery. So pardon me for interrupting now, Jeffrey.
No, that's fine. It's a commercial within a commercial. That happens very rarely.
Right.
So, the point is that yes, OCCA is always for artists that are in the contemporary realm for membership and participation. The only thing that Beverly was talking about in terms of locale happens to be the practicality of membership, and that you can live anywhere you want, but the requirements in membership is there's at least like 2 or 3 trips to the gallery each month for different things. So the further you live from the gallery or from Santa Ana or maybe from Orange County, that's where we've learned that it's better if you're closer in. But in any event, that's all there is to that part of it. And thank you for the information there, Beverly. That was a really good explanation. And so once again, with all that in place, I'll go ahead and turn things over to our assistant executive director, and that is Evelyn, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Jeff. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you. I think the exhibition looks awesome. I was there yesterday, and I think you're all going to be pleased when you see. And if you have a chance to come down and see the exhibition, please know that all protocol is in place and you're not to be concerned about anything as far as the pandemic goes. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going to be happening to OCCA in the next few months. And I'm going to start out with Fresh Start, which is opened actually online January 2nd, and it will close on February 28th, 2021. This is quite a feast for your eyes, featuring the amazing works by artist members of OCCA. So it's all OCCA members. So if you want to see the work that is in this exhibition, go to our OCCA website at OCCCA.org, and you can take a look at the work, and you can even purchase work if you like. Following that will be, of course, car culture, but we're going to be talking about that later. And now we're going to move on to Shane Goofog. Now, Shane Goofog's exhibition is 40 years of self-portraits. It is co-curated by Shane Goofog and Victoria Chapman. This exhibition by Shane Goofog, 40 Years of Portraits, explores the self-portraits that Goofog started in 1981 and continues through to the present. This exhibition is literally a 40-year visual exhibition of the artist's psyche, beginning as a teenager, full of hope and dreams, to nowadays, to where he is today in his career, which takes him all over the country, all over the world, really, sometimes. But the drawings, pastels, watercolors, sculptures, you name it, he has it, and they will all be on display in his exhibition. At that point, which is in March and through March 27th through April 24th of 2021, I doubt that the gallery will be fully open then, but it certainly will be open for appointments. Next, I'd like to talk about Collaborate, Create, and Heal. This exhibition is Andrea, Moni, and Yuri Boyko, and it will run from May 1st until May 29th. And what is exciting about this exhibition is how the artist interprets and connects their medium with the subject of healing through their painting and photography. So that's going to be a pretty interesting show. Then from June 6th to June 26th, it'll be Sahalia Sebati, and she's in the midst of planning her exhibition, so I don't have a whole lot to say about that right now, but she is an OCCA member, and I'm sure it will be a wonderful exhibition. Now here we go, the Anthropocene Epiphany, Art and Climate Change. This is an open call, and I think anything to do with art and climate change, my gosh, who wouldn't want to try to at least put something into that exhibition? The deadline for that to enter work is May the 30th of 2021. And the exhibition will actually run from July 3rd until August 21st. So it's an open call. You can get all the information that you want on our website at OCCCA.org and find out whatever you might need to know about that. And next, of course, is car culture. And I'm going to, at this point, turn it over to our assistant exhibition director, Robin Rep.
Thank you, Evelyn. Very
You're
happy
welcome.
to be here tonight. I'm excited to see everybody. Okay, well, let's take a quick little tour of the gallery. I know some of you have never been there because I know the artists that submitted to this show are from all over the country, actually from out of the country. This is the outside of Oka, actually, yesterday. Thanks to Tom Lamb for creating our 360-degree tour. This 360-degree tour, you can, and I'll put the post on the chat. You grab the screen and you can look up the street and you can look down the street. You can go left to right. You can zoom in with your mouse. Just zoom in, zoom out. This is the outside of the gallery. So here we go. We're going to step inside. Here we go. And actually, our first picture up here is Tom Lamb. There we go. So if you wanted to look around the gallery, here's how we do it. And I think that's Vanessa's card cover right there. Okay. Let's see. Here, this is the Atrium Gallery, as you first enter Oka. So I'll just spin around a little bit so you can see what it looks like. So by grabbing the screen and just, there's reception. There you go. Then we'll move over, okay. And if you want to move in and see something, just move in, turn around. And then, let's see, is that Peter's piece right there? There we go. You can see that. Whoops, I'm going to just come back for a minute because there's another piece. Let's see, let's go back for just a second. I wanted to go around here. There is another piece right here. A couple pieces. This gives you a feeling what the gallery is. There is Earl Shepherd's Avante right in the center of the gallery. That's something, wow. There's a couple of pieces right here. I think that's, can't remember whose that is. Okay. And we're going to hear, is it Nikita speak later? You can turn this all the way around if you want to see the whole gallery. The tour is kind of set up so you can just click on these pictures as you would walk through the gallery. There's little arrows on the floor because of the spacing. We only allow 20 people at a time in the gallery and they're supposed to be spaced out 6 feet. So there's little arrows on the floor. So this is the way you would walk through and see, following the arrows, you would see these. There's Carolyn Yarnell, and here's Scott Nelson Foster's work. I know some of the artists because we've talked a little bit. Okay. Here's Richard Bond. I didn't see if Richard was here tonight. Oh, there he is. Hi, Rich. There's Richard's piece. It's really fascinating with the checkered cab items. And there's Hugo's. And then, let's see. Here we go. And I think that's the last piece. So that gives you a feeling what the gallery's like. You can go through it on your own, and I think I'll click like up here as long as I'm here. All right, so I hope you can get a chance to go see it. All right, so I will stop the share. I don't need to share anymore. There we go. Okay, and I'll put that in the chat again. If you just came on board and you didn't see that earlier, I will put that connection. See if I can do that to everybody. There you go. Okay. Oh, hi, Brian.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, good. Great to see you.
Great to see everyone too.
Yeah, this is our juror that did all the work. And so, Brian, I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you speak. Thanks so much.
Hey, everyone. I wanted to thank OCCCA and Jeffrey and Robin. They've been super helpful. I'll give you a little bit of a little bit of history. I guess at this point it's history. It's long ago. I got the invitation of jury this exhibition over a year ago, I want to say. I immediately accepted. I'm a car lover myself. I have been since I was a teenager. And, we were working towards it. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And then we sort of picked it up again towards the tail end of 2020. And it was really great to come back to this project and really great to receive the submissions. I guess what I want to say is that I was really surprised by, I was both really surprised and not surprised by a lot of the entries in both really interesting ways. One way that I think really affected the choices and what I saw was just the mood of the country and the mood of Los Angeles at the time that I was jurying this. This was juried at the very end of December, and we, of course, we were at the height of what was the latest surge in the pandemic, and we were all had a lot of thoughts in our head about that, and I would be lying if I said that it didn't have some effect. So that's to say that as I went through the as I went through the submissions, which were excellent, I wanted to go through and see just as much what was the mood of what was being submitted rather than what I wanted to see. And after many times of going through, would make 3 or 4 selections each time, making my way up to 40. So you can imagine how many times I went through. And what started to emerge, or emerge for me and emerge from the work itself, was this really complex relationship with cars. And I really appreciated that sentiment, that this wasn't about these amazing machines that are so beautiful, and chrome and the beach and Malibu and like California classic car culture, that there's this like golden age of the car, and that we should be there should be nostalgia towards this. And what I realized is it's actually way more complex than that, as we all know. I mean, like, yes, there are times when cars are these beautiful things, but more often than not is the thing we get into to go to the grocery store, right? Or the thing that causes traffic, or the thing that causes pollution, or the thing that is we desire, or any of these mixed things. And that really started to come out. And I think the show as I see it installed, I haven't seen it in real life. It looks fantastic. But as I selected it, it was really, really interesting. And not only that, I think that it was great to have a diversity of applications coming, and really that we're coming at the car culture from a multiplicity of places. It wasn't just, sorry the phrase, but like middle-aged white men who are going through midlife crisis with their car. It was like all kinds of people who had different relationships with cars, women, men, people from different cultures. And I thought that was really, really fantastic. And I tried to emphasize that as well. I will say that when I went back and looked at the 40 entries, I was like, wow, this is kind of a downer of a show in some ways, but I actually think that that's good and highlights what we're all feeling in the world. So I really, really appreciated the chance to do it. And there's some amazing artists here, who really are working in such a variety of mediums and doing such important work. So it's my privilege to be able to see the work and jury the work. And I can't wait to see it. And I hope that all the artists involved and everyone who sees it likes it as much as I enjoyed putting it together. And I should say, I don't know what the format of the rest of this reception is, but I'm happy to take questions or talk a little bit more about any specific thing that anyone might want. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brian. And we thought we would have the questions on everything, on what you said, and of the artists who are speaking, and any other questions at the end. So
Great.
That's how we were going to do that.
Put the questions in the chat box.
Thank you.
So that we don't have everybody talking all over each other, and then we'll go over them later. So that would be great. Just whenever you want, just put them in. You can put the question to everybody. It doesn't have to just be to me. Just type it in the chat box. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Robin. And everyone, please remain on mute. So thank you very much, Brian. Now we are going to hear from the artist, but one comment I wanted to make is, Brian, you used the phrase, I think more than once, it was sort of a downer of a show, the mood of the submissions. And you said the obvious, I'm just saying the obvious. In some ways, it's a downer of a time. So reflecting the times. Maybe we'll have the show again in hopefully a few years, and we can be much more up.
I just let me what I mean a downer of a show is that I think there's a version of the show that was much more celebratory of cars, right, in a way. And I think that the show is much more complex than that, and might not be as celebratory as a kind of show that's just sort of like in praise of these objects.
Okay.
So maybe I should use the word complex and not downer, because there's beautiful works and there's beautiful, amazing things in there. But I think complexity is a good way to describe it.
Okay, I hope I didn't misrepresent.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, so let's move on to the artist presentation. And we'll start right in. These are the artists who are going to present tonight. They're going to be speaking for 3 minutes each. And let's move right into the first artist, who is Hugo Almanza.
Thank you. My name's Hugo Almanza, and it's my pleasure to kick this off. I'm a local Santa Ana artist. I've previously participated in I believe it was the OC Edge exhibition. And well, my art, as you can see, it's a diorama. It began with my passion and curiosity for like lowriders, the lowrider culture. I wasn't born knowing the history, so I had to look it up myself. No one passed it down to me. So I mean, the lowrider community, it wasn't always what we perceive right now. It started a lot more subtle, just car customization, and just here and there it developed to what we see now. And for me, it began with going to lowrider shows. They really caught my eye. It was a lot different than what we see now, the like 2017 Hondas. It was a lot different to see this car with a rich gasoline smell. It was definitely eye-catching, especially when they when they'll restore them with a brand new paint job and their own little personal touches, it definitely gives you a clue to who the driver might be. And whenever you see it again, it definitely leaves an impression. You'll see it coming down the road. And it's definitely an homage to the quality of the classic cars. We call them classic now, but at that time period, it was just your average car. And it's definitely a curiosity of mine, whether the cars from now will be perceived that way in our future. So you never know, you might have a classic car in your garage right now, and maybe you think it's just your car. And well, from what I know, it began with a lot of the Hispanic community speaking towards the lowrider community, because it was the first time you could have your own car, because it was very low income. And basically, a lot of the times they were fairly beat up. So you kind of had to do a little fixer-upper and work on it. And little by little, I've learned that is kind of what developed into the Hispanic community's lowriding culture. And every different culture has their own take on car customization. Like there's the hot rod and etc. And I dream of one day owning a classic car, hopefully. I began just collecting those scale cars that you see there. So they're all individual pieces. And even the platform itself is its own individual piece. That specific piece is actually a little tray, the ones you leave your tip on after you have your dinner. So I flipped it over and I just started landscaping it basically and placing all the little figures and the cars. And to me, that's a manifestation of what I envision as the lowriding community that I perceive. Doesn't matter where you come from. As we could see it now, there's even a lowriding community in Japan. If you do a little research, there's videos where they're exporting a lot of our classic cars from here to Japan. And it's intriguing how they'll adopt a lot of the little things that you may see here that would either come from like American culture, Hispanic culture, and they just embrace it over there openly. And sadly, the images I put are not my best images. I do have a larger collection of images as well as dioramas. So, I mean, ideally, I wish I could one day have my own exhibition. I'm collecting these, so I'm currently not selling them. Sorry, but they are not cheap to build either. Every little thing is not inexpensive. So if there's any questions, I'll gladly answer them right now.
Hugo, we keep moving on. We'll do that at the end.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great background you put there. Okay. And our next speaker is Marla Barrett. You there, Marla?
Yes, I am. Hi. I don't see me. I don't know what's going on there, but that's fine.
Do you not see the screen? Where it says
Well,
Marla?
I see. I'm not a great Zoom. Oh, there's that. Okay. Yes, I see
Okay.
you, and that's all I need. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Cut me off at 3 minutes. Feel free
Okay.
to do that. Because I don't know. Basically, my uncle, who I adored, he passed away some years ago, and in going through his stuff, I found a cache of Polaroids, and in looking through them, through these pictures, these old pictures, I really saw, they were showing all him growing up basically, and this is his high school graduation, and I just felt like I could see the trajectory of his life. And you could see it in his relationship to his cars. Like here, he almost seems to be getting more powerful because he's near his car. Like he's more insecure. He's a little fidgety and he's in his suit. And he's standing next to this fancy car, or I don't know, it looks fancy to me, but he was clearly proud of it. And then as you go through, you can see him in his 30s, and it also, well, you can see him in his 30s, and he'd go with his friends, and he'd yeah, there we are. He'd go to the desert, and then he never wore a shirt. All the other pictures, he was just never wearing a shirt. He just was comfortable in his own skin, basically. And it's no longer, the cars then took on his personality. He no longer was trying to absorb their, greatness. He was just living life outdoors, shirtless. And it just, I don't know, I guess, basically it's as much about my uncle as the cars, but there's this symbiosis there. And the panel is, I call those little panels on the right, the Elegy Panel. And an elegy is like a poem. It's not a sad thing, but he had passed in it. And in the first painting you saw, it's a little fuzzy because he was kind of coming into his own. And in this one, the little panel shows a little more definition because he's, so these photos I found, these Polaroids, they're like often like in the dirt, broken down cars. Sometimes they were working on them. And it was just him with his friends in their cars. Yes. So he was popular with the ladies. He was very famously handsome. And so I found this one interesting just because it shows the interiority. It's like when you're in relationship to another person and they're both in their cars. And it's much more close up and intimate. So it kind of shows him entering into that more intimate stage of his life. And the panel shows, it's kind of representing, intersecting, but that's about enough. I think I'm probably getting close to 3 minutes. So.
You're fine. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marla.
Thanks.
Our next speaker is Nikita Budkov.
Yes, I'm here, I guess.
Great.
Okay, so hi everyone. I just want to say that we do have a beautiful show. I didn't expect so many different and diverse pieces, and like Brian said, the times today, they're darker, and this painting of mine now has a little bit different story, I guess. So I'm originally from Russia. When I came to the United States, of course, I wanted to find out more about culture here, and bikers and motorcycles is something I always adored. And this is my friend. I painted him. It's a life-size portrait, and I urge everyone to go to the show to see it actually, because it's different when you see it in person, and it's really hard to photograph dark paintings, especially. So I called it Born to Lose, Live to Win, and it's after a Motorhead song, or after several songs, I guess. I call my paintings after songs, different genres. And I'm a portrait artist. I love to use symbology in portraits. So this painting has some cool things, some Easter eggs in it, incorporated. And so it's basically a depiction of a man who is very stoic in a sense. He's rough, he's a biker, but if you look closely in his eyes, there's some certain uncertainty. He's something might be holding him back, or he might have some soft side inside of him. And so yeah, like talking about the times today, it's interesting now. What could it mean that he's overlooking like this? Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to paint him. I painted him more and more. I actually sold some paintings. One of the paintings of him was Tuesday's Gone, after Lynyrd Skynyrd song. That was good too, on the motorcycle. And this one I photographed it first after I did some sketches. We went to the hills, and it's actually San Fernando Valley behind him. And I had the Crown Vic police interceptor. That was my car. And I turned on the lights, and it was the only source of light was the police car. So that's also kind of interesting. And he couldn't look like towards me. He was looking actually to the side, and I think it kind of added to the vibe of the painting. So yeah, I guess that's my 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next artist is Luis Garcia.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So first and foremost, I just want to introduce myself again. My name is Luis Garcia, and I'm originally from Los Angeles. I currently live in Sacramento. But when I was in Los Angeles, I lived there for almost 40 years. And I was a 15-year art teacher at my former high school in South Central Los Angeles. So a lot of this work was done with the intention of an educator, right?
Toffee?
Excuse me,
Toffee.
I'm talking. Please mute yourselves. And so I'm originally an educator, and so my work is done with the intention to educate, right, the masses. And so in this first piece, which is a part of a series of artworks that I titled "Cruising LA's Political Landscape," touches on different civil rights violations that were done towards people of color. And so this image that we're looking at references the Rodney King beating and the Los Angeles riots in 1992. And so the idea of cruising, right, the political landscape, is what you see here is a 1992 Chevy Caprice cruising the political landscape, which you see in the background, right? And at the time in 1992, the political landscape was the 1992 riots. And so the contrast, right, in the background is from 2018, 2017 newspapers that focus on articles of police brutality. And so that's sort of the collage that I created in the background. If we can move on to the next slide, I can talk about that as well. Okay, and so this piece is more of a universal image. It's not necessarily referencing a particular year, but it's referencing the constant stereotype that exists, not only for the Buick Regal, which was identified as a gangster car, but also the stereotypes that exist for African Americans, right? Just simply being African American is a threat to the police. And so what you see in the background are images of athletes, right? Like Colin Kaepernick and John Carlos and Tommy Smith in 1968 that were protesting the conditions of African Americans. And so the contrast that I wanted to create with this was what was happening, right, in years past and what is happening with years now. And my time is up, but I can answer any questions later on.
You want to say anything quickly about this?
Yeah, this references the case of Madrigal versus Killigan, which was the case of 7 women that sued USC County Hospital for unlawfully sterilizing women in the 1970s, in 1975. So I can touch on that later on too.
Okay, thank you very much, Luis.
Yeah.
Peter Hassan.
Hi, my name is Peter Hassan. I just want to thank, first of all, Brian for selecting my work, and Jeffrey and Robin and all the staff at OCCCA for the wonderful work they're doing. My work, I'm a conceptual contemporary artist working in multiple media, and a lot of my work, much of my work is focused on history and cultural touchstones. And so with this series, I'm examining time and memory. And you go to the next slide. And I'm using cars or automobiles this time to access childhood memories. The cars are a lens that I use to view my family, playing off universal associations of the sports car, the station wagon, or next slide. or the VW Beetle, the Bug, the Groovy People Mover. And most car culture lives in the historical past. But here it's very personal past for me. But the universality, I think, is a way to draw people in and get them thinking about it. I have 3 family associations here, my father, my mother, and a family friend, a babysitter. And my mom's Ambassador Rambler wagon, 1970s. My dad's 911 Turbo Carrera, 1978. His dream car, and the Beetle here. Along with historical icons, religious icons here, or other types of cultural icons. This way of tapping into the rosy glow of my memory and trying to understand more about time and how memories fade, memories change, memories go away. So cars are a great way to tap into that for me.
Thank you very much, Peter.
I've also shared my website if anybody would like to get.
You put it in there. Are you putting it in the chat?
Yeah.
Great, great. Okay. And next is Peter Hires. You there, Peter?
All right, I'm unmuted now.
Great.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be part of this show, and I think about car culture all the time. I'm definitely a participant in car culture myself, and I enjoy the freedom of travel and the luxury of having a vehicle and being able to go someplace when I want to, COVID or not. I really appreciate all that. At the same time, I am always aware that there's a great cost to that freedom. There's a great cost to our reliance and our dependence on cars. And I feel that when I go to the gas pump, I feel that when I buy new tires, I feel that when I see smog in the sky. And I know that even if it's not car exhaust, there's car brake pads and there's car tire fragments, tiny little fragments that, you know, when you think about your tires wearing out, what happens? They turn tiny little powder, and that ends up being part of the pollution that's in the sky. And that ends up in the ocean, and ends up in the landscape. So I think about car culture from a perspective within a greater context of all the things that humans are doing these days and do in general around the planet that are shortening the longevity of humanity as well as other creatures. So I think about the cumulative cost of all of my actions and all the actions of each of us on the planet that have this negative effect down the road on the life itself. So that's what this piece is about. It's balancing not included, as if it's a tire for sale in a showroom and they're trying to sell the balancing. And I feel like it's pretty clear life is out of balance here in our culture. And the way we're headed is definitely, you know, trying to keep ourselves alive one more day. And meanwhile, the cumulative effects are pretty harsh. So this piece is asymmetrical. The hole in the center of it is asymmetrical, and it's constructed of fragments of tire rubber I pick up from the side of the highway. Ironically, you can't see the other side, but the other side actually, instead of having this radial design of fragments, the other side has a concentric sort of parallel circles getting smaller and smaller of also ripped tire rubber. And I'm very drawn to the rubber itself. I don't know if you can see much in my studio lighting here, but here's a piece of rubber. You can see the industrial side. The other side where it's ripped and torn is the part that I find most amazing. I don't know how I don't think my lighting is really catching it too well, but the rips and the tears to me are the most significant metaphor about the material. That plus the fact that it's both organically composed and manufactured. That metaphor combined with the fact that these fragments of rubber I pick up are remnants of an industrial prowess that we believe in as humans, and yet the natural forces destroy them on a daily basis and create this daily detritus. It's part of our culture. We don't even notice the tires by the side of highways that are part of every one of our lives. That's just part of getting the food to our table and the clothes on our back. So I could go on and on about this, but I do feel like this show is a great contrast to the celebration of cars that you find at the Peterson Automotive Museum in LA. Beautiful show, beautiful museum, great stuff. But I feel like this show is a really great precedent to the Anthropocene Epiphany show, and in a way a subset of that, at least how I think about it. And I'm grateful to be part of it. So thank you all for that. Just quickly, I have a solo show at Gallery 825 on April 17th in Los Angeles. And otherwise, my work is sometimes available at George Billis Gallery in Culver City.
You're welcome to put that in the chat.
I'll do that.
Information.
Thank you all.
Thanks very much. Carol, are you there?
Yep, I'm
And
here.
now we
So,
have
hi, everybody.
a very special treat. Can I press it? Okay. A video, which Carol will briefly introduce.
Yeah, so briefly introducing, I'm Carol Zoe. I'm an LA-based social practice artist, and I'm a founder of Moto Voto, which looks at the intersection between motorcycle culture and social change. So the video that you'll see tonight is a project called the Official Unofficial Motorcycle Voting Station. And for anyone who's interested, I am currently looking for supporters who know how to get Harley Davidson to trick out a tour bike and sponsor a national voter engagement tour. So, video.
Okay, great. Put it in the chat.
Yes.
The Official Unofficial Motorcycle Voting Station is one of many voting stations that artist Aram Hansafuentes is creating in collaboration with other artists across the United States. Aram created this project because she couldn't vote in 2016. It's really obnoxious to hear get out the vote when you can't vote. And so she decided to create a project that highlighted voter access issues, but in doing so also gave her an opportunity to vote. So Moto Voto is an art project that imagines motorcycles as a vehicle of social change. Going to city council meetings is boring. Going to budget meetings is boring. Reading zoning codes is boring. And so a lot of what I do as an artist is to think about ways to use play and fun to invite people into the civic process. It's LA, and I think that people are really used to a lot of street spectacles, so people take pictures of it. And that's why we have a QR code, so that for people who are really uncomfortable with in-person interaction, they can place a vote in the project online. I think for me, what's been really interesting about this project is getting to know the motorcycle community. I am a baby motorcyclist. This is really my entryway into the motorcycle community. One of my shadow collaborators has actually been my mechanic. It's a really great place to just introduce this idea of, oh, creative social change art projects can be a part of this community if they weren't ready. I have had people tell me like their stories about voting, or the fact that they actually aren't registered to vote or haven't felt invested in voting. And so for me, it's a good wake-up call that even though I'm in these circles that talk politics every day and that like cancel each other for not being political enough, that a lot of people are walking out there, I think, not having the time or the energy or the knowledge to participate in our local government process. My hope is that when we rebuild our society after COVID-19, that we do it with a consciousness about inviting participation, especially from people from marginalized backgrounds. That's it. Thank you very much, Carol.
And any information you would like to put in the chat, feel free to do so. Tom.
Oh, good evening, everyone.
Who I might mention is a member of OCCA. Sorry, Tom.
Oh, okay. Brian, thank you for putting this show together. It's quite interesting, the collision of images and things that we saw as we installed this show over the last week or so. It was really interesting to see all these pieces firsthand. So I really encourage people to go to the gallery. I have three very different sort of pieces. This piece is more typical of my aerial photography. And this was actually shown and the first time this was shown was at the LA art show, where I was sponsored by Volvo. Volvo sponsored me as the artist and his car, because I drive a 1962 P1800 Volvo car. So they, for some reason, thought that I would be a great candidate, and I got to show a great number of pieces of work at that show. But this is actually, sort of traces of cars driving on the Apple Valley Plateau near Edwards Air Force Base, cutting through the playa and creating these sort of abstract, very much printmaker design. I come from a printmaking background, but I'm always been a photographer. The second image is sort of reminded me of growing up with like shows like the Jetsons and things like that, where all these giant roads were made, and what was sort of left behind, if all the cars went away, we would be left with these roads. So it's a diptych of two different northern, Southern California, where I do a lot of aerial photography. The top images, those are interested in San Francisco Airport, looking down at the arrival zone. And the bottom image is closer to home, is the confluence of the 5 freeway and the 405 freeway about Irvine Spectrum. So it's this confluence of just amazing amounts of concrete that are, innumerable roads. I mean, I moved here from Colorado at 10,000 feet and immediately found myself at sea level. I'd never seen so many cars and so much freeway. So it's pretty, it's pretty daunting when people come to visit and try to drive on our roads. I mean, we kind of forget because we're used to it, but you go somewhere else and they're not roads like we have here. And the third image is actually a vintage image from 1979 when I was in graduate school at the Rhode Island School of Design. And I took a trip down the inland waterway with my 8x10 view camera. And this is on Sanibel Island. And this is a Bluebird special. And these, I was making, what I thought were iconic images at the time, but I found this wonderful gathering in front of their favorite RV vehicle, but I just couldn't believe the Almost Heaven, West Virginia posting of it. So this is, a print a contact print that's, sitting as a little gem in that show. So thank you all for being part of the show, and I'm honored to be there myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Our next speaker is Levon Perrian. You there?
Yeah.
Ready? Okay.
Hello. Yeah, hi. So I'm a photographer by training and trade, and I teach photography at Cal State Northridge in the art department. So these images you're looking at are from a series called Lost Memories, and they basically were in a flood. They're Kodachrome slides, and they were underwater for about a year. And at first, when I found them, I thought, "Oh my God, that all the family history is ruined, and all the Ektachrome was completely lost." But the Kodachrome survived in this shape. When I found it, it was full of mold, and it was like one big clump all stuck together. It was really pretty nasty. And I pulled everything apart and started looking at them. It took me a while. I couldn't look at them for about 5 years. Then I started looking at them, and I started seeing these amazing images. And so this is part of a book I've been working on for 30 years now, but it's called Lost Memories. And it's little stories I wrote about the things that I have forgotten. And I was reminded by these photographs. And I think we all have that sort of thing. So this one says, the first Mercury we got would not go backward. The second Mercury we got would not go forward. We finally got a Buick, and that was just right. So this is my mom and dad in front of our first car. Next slide, please. During our, my dad was an electrical engineer, and we went and lived in overseas. And one of the places we lived was Pakistan. And we would tour the whole subcontinent. We had these VWs with some friends, and we toured the continent. And this was on one of our trips through India. And it's interesting. Go ahead, next slide. This is my mom in a rickshaw. And she would take us to school every day. And one day she thought maybe she should drive a rickshaw. And I think she decided it was not a good idea. So we did not, it didn't work out. Let's put it that way. These things are dangerous to drive, but that's her in the rickshaw.
Okay. Thank you very much, Levon. And Rhiannon Valenti, sorry. You unmuted? Oh, she raised.
You have to unmute.
Rhiannon, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah. She was on. You can't find her? No. Okay. Click on, she raised her hand. Click on, it's a different first name. Look for Valenti. Okay. We are going to go ahead to the next artist because I know, Rhiannon, you were on before we started, and so maybe you're having some technical issues. So let's go on to Vanessa Viruette. While hopefully, oops, there you go. Hopefully Rihanna can work out the technical issues.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vanessa Viruette. I wanted to talk about this work. I'm actually from Chicago, Illinois, which has quite a bit of snow right now, just like this photo. So the work that I have made is always coming from a place of reaching and a place of researching. And in this case, I started making this work that was thinking a lot about cars because I was living in Detroit, also known as Motor City. And I was reaching back towards my family and thinking a lot about my dad, who is a mechanic. And thinking a lot about the neighborhood and the community that I grew up in. A lot of my practice is dedicated to material explorations of flags and flag making, and understanding the language of flags. So with this work, I started thinking about the connotation of the word flag as a noun and the word flagging as a verb. And when I started thinking about those things, it brought me to the fringes of masculine culture which incorporates gang culture, gay cruising, where flagging is part of how people signify to one another where they stand, and parts of their identity. I started, you can go to the next slide. If you can go to the next slide.
Yes.
I started researching the black and white bandana. I actually started researching the race car flags while I was in graduate school, and it led me down this rabbit hole of these series of black and white flags and how they're used in NASCAR. And this series of work is a combination of this idea of race flags, playing on the words race as in race car culture, and also race as in race and identity. So with this piece, I was thinking a lot about the flag with the half black and half white represents unsportsmanlike conduct in NASCAR. And so when a driver is pushing another car off the track, they wave a half black, half white flag. And the other flag, which is actually supposed to be all black with a white X on it, it signifies a disqualified flag. So that flag gets pulled when, a driver's been repeatedly displaying unsportsmanlike conduct. So again, when I was thinking a lot about this idea of race and identity and what it means to be unsportsmanlike and to be disqualified, I was trying to combine those ideas together. And one of the things that was really striking to me was this black flag with this white X on it that meant disqualified. And when I did some more research, I found out that NASCAR actually is very well known for their Confederate flag waving. And, the resemblance between the black flag with the white X and the Confederate flag was just uncanny to me. And I also know that NASCAR did start a program where they tried to get people to exchange their Confederate flags for American flags, and it wasn't entirely successful. But for me, the use of the bandana is an example of socioeconomic cloth. It's a textile that I associate with my own upbringing, my culture, my low income background. And when I use this textile and when I screen print this textile, I'm trying to draw attention to the space between the art world and this community that is not necessarily included in communities of art making. So in exaggerating the size of the bandana and covering the car and using it in these ways is my attempt to colonize the art world and to take up as much space as possible as a queer Latina woman. So that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. And Rhiannon Valenti, go ahead.
Well, first I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of you at the Orange County Center there. You're all beautiful. You worked hard and put on a gorgeous show, and I'm totally grateful and excited to be a part of it. And I wanted to send a special thank you to Brian for choosing my work too, because I was so happy and so excited to be a part of this show. Well, basically the nature of my work is
Awesome.
Oil paintings of Barbie dolls and other type dolls is the subject matter. And I set up the still lifes myself, and then I create around it, and I photograph my work, and then I work from my photos and create my paintings. So for this particular painting, it's called Driving Through, and it's kind of surrounded, it was created around that little vintage orange dune buggy. And it just seemed like that's how I work. I get inspired by a single object, and then I sort of let it kind of, I feel it, and I kind of get like a little kid and get in there and kind of create around what it says to me. So I just paired it with the two dolls, which are Barbie's friends. They're vintage dolls. They're PJ and Casey, her little friends. So I put them in a little car, and then I was thinking of this concept of drive-throughs, and there's just such a big part of our culture, and they're all around. They're on every corner, and this whole idea of having fun, and you don't have to get out of the car, and you just drive through in the California sunshine and the little convertible. So that's what inspired me. And then they have that gorgeous advertising, big, huge hamburgers, that are so enticing. And I just thought, well, I want to put that big hamburger in the back of the car, like they're driving through and they say, I want to order that. And then it comes like that big in the back of the car. And it's never like that. Yeah, it's never like that. You get a little dinky burger, and the fantasy is just in your mind. But so all of those thoughts were kind of spinning around, and that's how I sort of created it that way. So I actually went to the Carl's Jr. and bought a couple burgers and the bacon and the onion rings and all that stuff, and put it all together, and it was really messy and kind of yucky, and that's how I created it and did the photo. And I put a little daisy on it for a little innocence, and there was like a pesky fly, and he was flying around, and he landed on the burger, and it just happened great. And I thought, well, that's great, because it gives it that little edge that it's not so good. Times are kind of that it's not so sweet and innocent, that there's a little reminder of, that little decay or whatever. So that's my painting. I wanted to capture that whole feeling of the fun and playfulness of California driving around and the drive-throughs, and so that's it. So so then when I saw this call, I did this painting a few years ago, and then I saw this call for car culture. It caught my eye, and I said, I think I have something to enter, and I'm going to try, and I think this might work out. And so I was thrilled when I did get the call, and I'm just so happy to be a part of the show, and I can't wait to come down and see everything in person and get to look at everybody's work and really enjoy it. So that's my contribution to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad that you entered.
I am too. Thank you. I love everyone. Everyone stay well.
Yes. And what you see on your screen now is the presenting artist. And now we will open it up to questions. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to raise your hand, and we can call on you to unmute, and you can speak.
I know Earl wanted to talk about the Avante.
Hello. Good evening. Tribute is a 64 Studebaker Avani, and it is named Tribute because the piece is a tribute to that model of car. It's essentially a diptych. On one half, it's the number boards from various Avanis that have raced and set records at Bonneville and El Mirage. And the passenger side is a tribute to the artistic and social trends that overlap the car's lifespan. And it's all acrylic, a little bit of metal leaf and marker, all painted directly on the car, and took about 1,300 hours over a year and a half.
Ooh. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Okay.
And I'll also throw the website up in chat.
Great. And I'm just going to ask, if you want to ask a question, to unmute yourself and ask, and to take turns, please, in asking the questions. And you can ask the artist or Brian.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm wondering from Carol Zoe, what inspired you to get started on this entire project with the combining motorcycles and social justice and social change?
Well, one, honestly, I was joking to a friend. I just wanted to make the pun. I literally was like, you know, there's like the word moto, it rhymes with voto. I'm going to make a project about motorcycles and voting. But I think for me, as I said in the video, it's a way of like, a lot of my work is about navigating space and spatial injustice. So I grew up in Texas, and I was actually thinking about like gerrymandering and the way that like districts are gerrymandered when I started out Moto Voto. And so for me, it just became a fun provocation to investigate all the different ways that a motorcycle could spatially navigate the way that like we experience like spatial segregation or voter suppression and disenfranchisement.
Carol, can I ask you something? I'm not clear. Do you have a quote day job in the field of politics, or are you a political activist, or from whence?
So my multiple day jobs are, I'm a cultural organizer. So I work on campaigns to connect artists with social change issues like the Green New Deal. And I also work in like non-arts institutions like community development to look at like arts and neighborhood advocacy on a local scale.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else have a question? Do you want to just unmute yourself?
Yeah, you know, the other, Brian, you started to go on, and maybe you have some other comments about the exhibit that you'd like to impart, because it was really interesting the way you put this show together. So I'd like to hear some more maybe too.
Sure. I can talk about it. I think as I see you guys talk about your work, it reinforces the idea that I said at the beginning, or that I was stating, and I put in the sort of statement of thing. And I think one of the things that I spoke about, and that I look at a lot of these images, and it really reminds me, it's like the idea that a car is represents a kind of masculinity that is a little scary sometimes. Like I think when I look at Nikita's image, I remember being honestly like, I'm afraid of those kind of people, you know. Like I think that a lot of, you know, I think a lot of people see bikers as like heroes, you know, like, but to me, a biker, especially the one in Nikita's image who has like what looks like sort of German fascist on his right breast, that's really scary to me. Like, you know what I mean? And when I see, when I thought, as Miss Viruette said with her works about NASCAR, this idea that like NASCAR itself is also, for me, embedded in a kind of like Southern Confederate flag racing. So it's the multiplicity of these readings with these things. And then the other thing that came out a lot with the works that we were speaking about today is this idea of nostalgia and memory, and how there's this idea of like the golden age of cars, and like that intersects with the golden age of America, right? Like, you know, the 1950s, and people love the cars from the 1950s. But in reality, like the memories can be so much more personal and so much more complex than just sort of like golden age-ness. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the gentleman's name off the top of my head, but those images of the riots and the forced sterilizations meeting up with the cars, that was one of the first things that really stuck out to me when I was looking at this. Like, these cars were marketed and made for one thing, right? Like they're marketed to a certain kind of people, and then they end up being icons for another kind of person. And that's where this sort of like nostalgia can come from, both good and bad. And the Barbie car, actually, it's so funny that you think of it of sort of like a Happy California Hamburger. But I sort of thought, when I saw that painting, I really thought about like the access that women have to car cultures when they're young. I think that so many men get toy trucks, you know, Hot Wheels, Tonka trucks, right? There's like a variety of trucks and cars and different kinds of things that they can be part of. but women are giving like the one Barbie car. They can have the one
Right.
Barbie car, and it's either like a Jeep or a buggy or something like that. That no one really. I mean, people drive Jeeps, but like no one drives a buggy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But like men can have all
Right.
these different kinds of cars at their disposal, but women only get to see it through the lens of Barbie. And that when I saw, and I have to say, I thought those little Barbies in the car were a little bit worse for wear. They weren't looking like the most pristine Barbie. So I was like, wow, these like broke Barbies have to be in this like jalopy buggy. That's the only car they have access to.
Okay.
So,
That's funny.
so yeah, I guess that all these works that you guys have shown today, and all the ones in the show are so representative of what was going through my head when looking at them. So I'm so pleased to hear more about them. And honestly, some of the ones that were shown today were some of the first that I chose. So it's really great to hear from the artists.
Thank you so much, Brian. Is there anyone
you.
else? Oh,
Yeah.
Nikita, I see you.
Yes, you're
Yeah, I just want to answer to Brian about the scary bikers. It's actually very interesting when you find out more about them. A lot of them they're like boys, and they be boys until I guess they die, and not scary at all. And about the German, it was an Iron Cross and the Eagle. Yeah, that's because I guess what I found out from my friend is after World War II, all the veterans came back, and they brought a bunch of trophies, and they brought the helmets, they brought all these buckles and patches and everything, and they started wearing them, and that's how the biker culture here originated. That's basically what I know. I don't know if maybe it was a little different, but that's what the guy told me. So that's why they wear all this, what do you call it, memorabilia or something? That's why they wear all these symbols. But this guy, he was actually in the club in, I'm not gonna say what type of club, but he's not there anymore. So yeah, he stopped after he did something not too bad, but not too good. And after that, he just cut all the connections. So that I just want to say that. But most of them are just posers. So don't worry about them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't see any more hands up. We have a couple minutes.
I have a question for Luis if he's around.
Okay, Peter.
Yeah, I'm around.
Luis, it seems that your inspiration is very much drawn on your years in Los Angeles. Being in Sacramento, are you finding similar sources of inspiration there? My guess is that what the subject matter you're dealing with is universal, but I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this idea of cruising California's political landscape now that I'm up here. And so because this started with the history of Los Angeles and you know, that first series of pieces I titled Cruising LA's Political Landscape, I want to do a show where I do Cruising California's Political Landscape and focus on the history of California. And so, you know, one of the things that I did with the series of Los Angeles is I collected LA Times newspapers for 2 years. And so now that I've been up here in Sacramento for approximately the same time, I've been collecting the Sacramento Bee newspapers so that I can get started on a series focused on the history of Sacramento. So I'm kind of doing that. And so, you know, I only have two hands. I'm only one person. And so the ideas are just, you know, as artists, we get so many ideas, but we can only work on one at a time. Thank you for asking, Peter.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No? Okay, well, we're just about out of time. I'm gonna pass it over to Robin to close it up. It's been wonderful, and I thank everyone who participated. Speakers, Brian, and all the others who were here, and all the artists who applied and those who were accepted. So, Robin.
Thank you, Beverly. And I want to give a special thank you to Brian for being our juror. We're so happy to have you. You did a fabulous job. And special thanks to Beverly and Jake for hosting the Zoom tonight. And behind the scenes, we had Tom Lamb creating the 360 tour. We had Jeffrey Frisch, Rich Bond, and Brendan Roach installing, Evelyn Alou and Andrea Moni with putting up the wall labels and getting the gallery ready. And I wanted to say a special thanks to Rob Mintz, our exhibition director, who has been out on leave for all of his creative writing and innovative concepts as our exhibition director. So, and I want to acknowledge what some of the artists went through to get their work there. I know, for example, Vanessa flew from Chicago with her work and brought it in person, and then turned around that day and got back on the plane and went right back to Chicago. I think she wins for most extraordinary delivery. So, and then there was Scott Nelson Foster, whose work got caught in a snowstorm, and it was delayed and delayed and delayed, and it was not available until Thursday, like the day before yesterday. And I finally was able, they couldn't deliver it for some reason. I had to go find it and somewhere in Anaheim to pick it up. So, and then I know one of our artists is in Australia. So yeah, Maria, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know what time it is in Australia, but thanks for tuning in tonight. I know it's, some other time. So people are from all over. I noticed about 15 different states. We had many actually a lot from New York and Maryland, and but mostly California, but from everywhere. So I want to just thank all the artists for making it really special. And if anybody's local, come hang out with us at the gallery. Maybe by March, we're going to have a second opening, a second reception, first Saturday in March. We're keeping our fingers crossed. Maybe we can have it at the gallery if they start up the first Saturday art walk in the art. We're looking in the Artist Village with the other galleries, Cal State Fullerton, Santa Ana College, and a lot of private galleries there too. So, and we generally on an art opening night, we get 2,000 people, sometimes more. It's really a fun night, and we have a bar. We have music, we have all kinds of things going on in the Artist Village. So, well, thank you all for coming tonight. It was great working with everybody. And I hope we see you again. I hope we see your work entered into the Anthropocene Epiphany, the Art and Climate exhibition. We'll be looking forward to seeing you then. So thanks so much.
And thank you, Robin, for everything you do. And I want to mention, we just saved the chat. And so if you want a copy of the chat, email Oka, and I think we can send that to you.
Great. Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Beverly.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Robin.
Stay well.
Thank you.
Everyone stay well.
Yes.
Please.
You're very special people. You're all blessed.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You.
Bye-bye.